Welcome to Pink Blade.
Here, we don't just watch stories.
We step inside them.
Today, we're diving deep into one chapter only.
That is right. Today we are laser focused on Bridgerton, Season 1, Episode 2, titled Shock and Delight. And honestly, looking at the stack of research you've brought to the table, that title, it feels like a bit of a misnomer.
How so?
It sounds fluffy. It sounds like a Lady Whistledown headline, But what we're actually looking at here is it's the brutal establishment of an economy.
It is an economy. You are absolutely right to frame it that way. If the pilot episode was the glossy marketing brochure...
Right. Here are the pretty dresses. Here's the queen.
Here's the fantasy, yeah. This episode is the quarterly earnings call. And if we're looking at the ledgers for the Bridgerton family... the earnings are not looking good.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Because we're dealing with the marriage mart. And I think casual viewers hear that term and they think, oh, it's just a cute nickname for the dating scene.
Like Tinder, but with chaperones?
Exactly. But the sources you pulled, they suggest it is much, much more literal.
Yeah.
It is a commodities market.
It is high-stakes trading. You really have to understand the context of 1813 London, specifically this tiny, rarefied slice of the British aristocracy.
The ton.
The ton. And for a family like the Bridgertons, or God forbid the Featheringtons, marriage isn't primarily about romance. We have been conditioned by, modern rom-coms to think it is. But historically and contextually in this show, it is about asset management.
A daughter is an asset.
A daughter is a prime asset.
Yeah.
And her value fluctuates based on supply, demand, and this is the crucial part: market sentiment.
Market sentiment in this world is controlled entirely by one person.
Lady Whistledown.
Yes.
You should think of Whistledown not just as a gossip columnist, but as, a market analyst. A ratings agency.
Got booties for the marriage mart.
Exactly. When she calls Daphne the diamond of the first water in episode 1, Daphne's stock price hits an all-time high. It's a blue chip stock.
Everyone wants to buy it. It's a bull market for Bridgerton.
It is. But in Shock and Delight, we see just how volatile that market is. We see a crash in real time.
A crash engineered by her own brother, Anthony. And I want to dig into this because the notes here describe him as a gatekeeper. But watching the episode, he feels more like a terrible portfolio manager.
Oh, that's good.
He's sabotaging his own investment.
That is a harsh, but I think a very fair assessment. Anthony is the Viscount. He is the head of the firm, so to speak. His only job really, is to secure the best deal for Daphne.
But he's obsessed with this very specific, very masculine idea of quality control.
Yes. He scares off all these potential suitors, the investors, because he doesn't think they're good enough. He's looking for perfection. But by doing that, he creates a scarcity of bids, not a scarcity of the asset. And that's a huge difference.
So he inadvertently signals to the entire market that the asset is flawed.
Precisely. The logic is simple. If no one is bidding on the diamond, people start to whisper. They start asking, what is wrong with the diamond? Is she damaged goods?
And that is where the real... the psychological trauma of the episode kicks in. We see Daphne panic.
A full-blown panic.
And it isn't just, oh, I won't get a boyfriend. It's so much deeper. It is, I'm going to become a spinster, which in 1813 is essentially a form of social bankruptcy. You're worthless.
Your entire purpose, as defined by that society, has gone unfulfilled. You become a burden on your family. It's a terrifying prospect.
And that terror, that desperation, brings us to the unsavory Lord Burbrook. He is the only buyer left in the market.
He is the junk bond of suitors.
But a junk bond. That is perfect. He's a terrible investment. Everyone knows it. But he's the only one bidding.
Yes, and this is what sets the stage for why the ruse with Simon is so necessary. It isn't just a cute rom-com trope they throw in for fun.
No.
It is market manipulation.
It's insider trading.
It is. Simon and Daphne agree to artificially inflate her value by creating the illusion of overwhelming demand from the highest rated source possible. If a Duca AAA rated asset wants her, the market corrects itself.
And her stock goes right back up. But before we get to the solution, I really want to stick with the problem for a bit longer. Because the shock in the episode's title, it really refers to the internal emotional states of these characters, doesn't it?
I think so. You have this glittering facade of the ton, but underneath, everyone is terrified.
The facade versus the reality. That's the central tension of the episode, isn't it?
It absolutely is. The show does this brilliant thing where it uses the set design, the costumes, the music to scream perfection, opulence, beauty.
Right.
While the actual script, the dialogue, the actors' faces are all screaming panic.
Daphne is the diamond. Yeah. But her status is so incredibly fragile. She is one bad headline from Whistledown away from complete and utter ruin.
And then there is Simon, the Duke of Hastings. If Daphne's stakes are all about her future securing a match, building a family, Simon's stakes are entirely about his past.
Completely. And this is the episode where we finally learn that his whole cool, aloof, rakish persona, it's not a style choice.
No, it's armor. It is a weapon. It's a shield that was forged in some really, really horrific childhood trauma.
So he's navigating this society that is obsessed with one thing above all else: lineage, heirs, continuing the name.
The very things he is secretly holding on to a vow to destroy. The personal stakes for him are impossibly high.
And watching over all of this, pulling the strings, is Lady Whistledown. In this episode, she feels less like a reporter and more like a puppet master.
She is shaping the reality, that's a great way to put it. When she declares the match between Daphne and Simon a matter of shock and delight, she is effectively telling London how to feel about it. She isn't just reporting the news.
She's creating the weather.
She's creating the weather. Perfect.
So let's get into the why. Why is this episode the hook? The pilot was great at set the scene, but why is this the moment where the show transforms from just a pretty period drama into a psychological character study?
Well, I think from a pure narrative structure perspective, this is where the engine of the season truly starts running. The pilot, like we said, introduces the who, here are the Bridgertons, here's the Duke. But episode 2, this is the episode that explains the why.
Why they are the way they are.
Exactly. It gives us that psychological anchor that makes us care. And the central mechanic that gets that engine going is the ruse.
The fake courtship. It's the oldest trick in the romance book. I mean, we have seen this in 1,000 movies, 1,000 novels. Why does it work so well here? What makes it feel fresh?
It works because it solves immediate, desperate problems for both of them in completely opposite directions. It's not just a whim. It is a transaction born of necessity.
Okay, break that down. For Simon,
he is being hunted. The ambitious mamas of the ton are, in his words, like vultures. He needs relief. He needs to get them off his back. If he is taken, if he is courting the season's diamond,
then the hunt is over. He can breathe.
He can breathe. It's a defensive move for him.
And for Daphne, it's the opposite. It's an offensive move.
Completely. She needs to raise her stock value. It is basic economics again. If a handsome, mysterious, and utterly unavailable Duke suddenly wants her, and only her,
then every other man in London suddenly reevaluates her worth. It makes her desirable again after her brother Anthony basically tanked her reputation.
Precisely. But what I find so fascinating is the shift in the dynamic between the two of them. Before this, they were accidental acquaintances. They literally bumped into each other. That was it.
Now they are co-conspirators.
Yes, that's the word. It establishes that us against the world mentality. They have a secret that nobody else knows well, except us, the audience. And sharing a secret like that, it creates an immediate, powerful bond.
It also has the unintended consequence of setting up Anthony as the primary antagonist.
Wow.
Which is wild because he's her brother. He's supposed to be her protector.
And in his mind, he is protecting her. That is the tragedy of it. That's what makes him a complex character and not just a simple villain.
Sure.
But in this episode, from a plot perspective, he moves from being a protective figure to a literal obstacle. His rejection of Simon is so visceral, so immediate. He tells Simon, I can think of dozens of reasons why you shouldn't court her, starting with, she is my sister.
That line, it's so dismissive, but it's also loaded. It creates so much tension because it forces Simon and Daphne closer together. Anthony pushes them into the ruse by trying so desperately to keep them apart.
It's beautiful irony. But to really, truly understand why Anthony is so terrified of Simon courting Daphne, and more importantly, why Simon is the way he is, we have to talk about the flashbacks.
Yes. The cold open. This was hard to watch. I mean, we are so used to Bridgerton being bright and colorful and warm, but these flashbacks were cold.
Stark is the word the production notes use, and the cinematography notes really emphasize this. The lighting in the flashbacks is drained of all warmth. It's all cool blues and grays, contrasting so sharply with the golden, candlelit hues of the Bridgerton drawing rooms.
It's a signal.
It's an immediate signal to the audience that we are in a different genre now. We are in a horror story, not a romance.
And it starts with Simon's birth. And it is just brutal.
It is. It's one of the most efficient and coldest bits of character setup I've ever seen. You have the mother in the background, dying, wailing in pain, and the father, the old Duke, Lord Hastings, is jubilant. He's shouting, I have a son, an heir!
And he literally steps over his dying wife to hold the baby.
He steps over.
That visual, I mean, it tells you everything you need to know about that man in 3 seconds. He doesn't care about people. He cares about the title. about the line.
He values the legacy over the life. The continuation of the name is everything. And that immediately sets up the source of all of Simon's trauma. We see young Simon, a small, scared boy, who we find out has a stutter.
A developmental stutter, which is so common in children.
And the father's reaction is just, it's evil. There's no other word for it. I will not have a simpleton bear my name. He calls his own child an idiot. He rejects him, disowns him to his face because he isn't perfect.
It explains so much about adult Simon in an instant. His silence, his guardedness, his preference for observation over participation.
He learned a terrible lesson as a child. If he isn't perfect, he is worthless, so it's better to say nothing at all.
And then we get the climax of it all, the deathbed scene. This is the key that unlocks the entire character.
Absolutely. Adult Simon stands over his dying father, this man who made his life a living hell, and he whispers that vow. The Hastings line ends with me.
Chills. Absolute chills. But I have to ask, and I think the show wants us to ask, is that an act of strength? Or is that just the ultimate act of pettiness?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it? And at this point in the story, Simon absolutely views it as strength. He sees it as the ultimate victory. He is denying his monstrous father the one thing he ever wanted, immortality through continuation.
He's killing his father's ghost.
He thinks he is. But from a psychological standpoint, it's a wound, it's self-harm on a generational scale.
Yeah.
He's letting a dead man control his entire future.
He's burning down his own house to kill a spider that's already dead.
That's a perfect analogy. And this revelation, it recontextualizes everything we thought we knew about him from the first episode. We thought he was just a bachelor enjoying his freedom, a classic rake.
No, it's not about freedom at all. He is a rake by design. Every single day he remains unmarried. Every day he refuses to have a child is a conscious act of revenge. He is spiting a ghost.
And here's the kicker. This creates that incredibly complex, dramatic irony regarding Anthony. Because when we see Anthony freaking out about Simon courting Daphne, Anthony is technically right.
That is the most frustrating part of the whole episode. You want to hate him, but you can't.
You can't. It makes the conflict so rich and so messy. Anthony is the villain of the episode in terms of the plot. He is the one stopping the fun, but he's the only one who knows the truth.
He knows Simon has vowed never to marry or have children. He's trying to save his sister from a relationship that is, by its very definition, a dead end.
And that conflict comes to a head in a very physical way. We have to talk about that boxing match scene.
Yes, because that's where this all gets physical. The subtext becomes text.
And look at the setting. It's a brilliant choice. We go from these pristine, feminine, pastel-colored ballrooms to this gritty, sweaty, masculine boxing saloon at the Chatham Dockyard. It is visceral. The air is thick.
And the dialogue is just as sharp as their jabs. Anthony isn't pulling any punches, pardon the pun. He asks, have the banns been read? He's pressing him, demanding to know his intentions.
And Simon can't give him an honest answer. He can't say, don't worry, it's all fake, because then the ruse is over. He also can't say, yes, I intend to marry her, because that's a lie. He's trapped.
And there's a brilliant visual detail here that one of our academic sources pointed out. Did you catch it? The lighting.
Tell me.
The lighting in that scene, coming to the windows, it creates a grid-like shadow over Anthony. It looks like prison bars.
Oh, I missed that. That is fantastic.
It symbolizes how Anthony is trapped, too. He is a prisoner of his duty as the Viscount. He has to protect the family name, protect his sister, just as Simon is desperately trying to destroy his family name.
They're two sides of the same coin, both trapped by their father's legacies, just in different ways, and they're fighting it out in a boxing ring. Amazing.
Speaking of fighting, let's switch gears to a different kind of fight. Something a little softer, but honestly, just as intense.
The promenade.
The promenade at Paintshill Park.
I'd call this the simmer before the boil. This is where the actual heat begins.
So the scene is Daphne and Simon are strolling. They're plotting the logistics of their fake romance. It's all very businesslike. Okay. And then the glove.
The glove. It is such a small moment, right? On paper, it's nothing. Simon buttons Daphne's glove for her.
Wow.
In a modern show, this would be a complete non-event.
But in 1813, with all the rules and the layers of clothing, it is scandalous intimacy.
It is the touch. His fingers brushing her wrists. It's the care he takes with this small, practical act. It's focused attention. And in a world where men barely look at women directly, that kind of focus is electric.
And then, while he's doing it, he drops that line. If I were truly courting you, I would not need flowers. Only 5 minutes alone with you in a drawing room.
And that is the turning point of the entire scene, of their entire relationship, really. It blurs the boundary completely. Up until that second, it is a business arrangement.
A means to an end.
Yes. And with that one sentence, he is saying, if this were real, it would be physical. It would be passionate. He introduces the threat and also the promise of genuine desire into their fake relationship.
It's masterful writing. Just absolutely masterful. And it's all supported by some incredible production design. We have to give a huge shout out to the team behind the camera, especially the costume designer, Ellen Mirajnik.
Oh, absolutely. Because looking at these notes, the scale of what they accomplished is hard to even comprehend.
The numbers are staggering. The sources say they created approximately 7,500 individual costumes for the first season alone.
7,500.
That sounds like a fake number. How is that even possible for an 8-episode season?
It's an industrial feat of artistry. They didn't just have a costume department, they basically built a costume factory. One of the interviews says they had a team of over 200 people cutters, sewers, dyers, embroiderers, embellishers working for 5 months straight.
Incredible.
But what's really interesting is the storytelling within the clothes. It's not just about looking pretty. Mirajnik talks about creating 2 very distinct palettes for the main families. The macaron palette and the acid fruit palette.
Macarons versus acid fruit. I love that. So the Bridgertons are clearly the macarons.
Clearly. They are the whispers of color, as she puts it. Pale blues, silvers, creams, dusty pinks. If you look closely, their signature color is very similar to Wedgwood pottery blue.
Oh, that's a great catch.
It screams old money, polish, elegance. They don't have to shout to be heard. Their status is assured. They are the establishment.
And the Featheringtons, they are the acid fruit.
To the extreme. Citrus yellows, lime greens, bright, almost neon oranges and pinks. They are the new money. One of the designers literally called them the Versace family of the 1800s.
That's hilarious and perfect.
They wear these overly embellished, garish clothes because they are desperate to be noticed. They're screaming for attention.
But wait, I have to ask about historical accuracy here.
Yeah.
Those greens and yellows look radioactive.
They are absolutely not historically accurate, and that is entirely the point.
Okay.
You couldn't get those incredibly saturated colors with the vegetable dyes they had in 1813. They look synthetic. They look modern. The show is using that anachronism to tell you something about their character. They are outsiders. They are trying too hard.
And Lady Featherington's look in particular is inspired by Elizabeth Taylor in the 1950s, right? Not the 1810s.
It is. It creates this specific silhouette that feels more aggressive, more structured, and more glamorous than the soft, flowing Regency styles of the Bridgertons. It's another visual cue that she doesn't quite fit in.
And speaking of not quite fitting in with historical accuracy, we have to talk about the no bonnets rule.
Yes, a controversial choice, but a brilliant one. Shonda Rhimes apparently issued an edict. No bonnets.
But wouldn't a respectable woman in 1813 be considered utterly scandalous without a bonnet outdoors?
Incredibly scandalous. She would be considered a loose woman. It would be the equivalent of walking around town today in your underwear.
So why do it? Just for the aesthetics?
It's about connection. Think about it. Bonnets, historically, they can look, well, a bit dowdy. They close off the face, they hide the hair.
They create a barrier.
A barrier, exactly. By removing them, you see the actors' full expressions, you see their elaborate hairstyles, you see the nape of their neck. It makes the show feel sexier, more immediate, and more aspirational for a modern audience. It removes that museum piece distance.
And then there is Simon. He has his own very distinct color story in this episode. He's pretty much the man in black.
He is. He wears almost exclusively black with some deep burgundies and charcoals. It's a very deliberate visual motif. It represents his dark backstory, his state of mourning for a life he'll never have, and his emotional unavailability.
He's a void.
He's a void. He's keeping the world out. The notes mention that later in the season he starts wearing red, the color of passion and love. But right now, in episode 2, his wardrobe is a fortress.
You know what else makes this show feel so modern and accessible? The music.
The Vitamin String Quartet effect, it's one of the show's biggest signatures.
I remember watching this episode for the first time and having that moment of realization where your brain is processing this classical music and suddenly you go, wait a minute, is that Shawn Mendes?
Yes. The huge climactic dance at the end of the episode, the one that seals the deal on their fake courtship in front of the whole ton, is set to a gorgeous classical cover of In My Blood by Shawn Mendes.
And it fits so perfectly, it's not jarring at all. But why that specific song?
It works on 2 levels. Sonically, it has this incredible build. It starts slow and intimate and crescendos into this big, sweeping romantic moment. Perfect for a ballroom scene.
But lyrically,
Lyrically, it's a stroke of genius. Even though we don't hear the words, the audience, especially the target audience, knows them. And that song is about crippling anxiety. It's about feeling like the walls are caving in and desperately needing someone to help you. The chorus is, "It isn't in my blood to give up."
Which mirrors both of their internal states perfectly. Daphne is anxious about her future, about being ruined. Simon is anxious about his past, about his trauma.
Exactly. It creates this subconscious emotional connection for the modern viewer. We know the song, we know the feeling of that song, so we project that deep modern emotionality onto these 19th century characters. It bridges the 200-year gap in an instant.
And Chris Bowers, the composer, he also wrote an original theme for them that we hear in this episode.
He did, and it's beautiful. He said in an interview he was inspired by the French composer Ravel. So it's classical, but it has a modern, romantic, almost pop sensibility to it. And it's slightly darker, a bit more melancholy to reflect the complexity of their ruse. It isn't a happy, skippy romance theme. It has real tension in it.
Let's talk about the locations for a second, because the world feels so real, so tangible.
It's this incredible mix of real history and TV magic. We mentioned the boxing saloon was filmed at the Chatham Dockyard, which gives it that authentic industrial grit. It feels dangerous.
And the promenade scenes, where they're walking and plotting. That's Paints Hill Park in Cobham, right?
Yes, which is a famous 18th century landscape garden. So it has that perfect, curated, natural look that was so popular at the time.
And the Gentleman's Club, where Anthony and Simon have that tense drink and talk about Simon being the end of the line.
That is the Reform Club in Pall Mall, London, a real place with a ton of political history. And filming there adds this nice layer of weight and gravity to their conversation about duty, legacy, and responsibility.
It's amazing how much thought goes into every single frame. I want to shift gears a bit and talk about the people bringing these characters to life. We've got some really great insights from the cast and creators about this specific episode.
We do. And Roger Page had some really interesting things to say about Simon's identity, specifically that duality of Simon versus the Duke.
Right, because in this episode, there's that moment where he asks Daphne to call him Simon.
And it seems like a small detail. On the surface, it's just, oh, we need to look like we're friends for the ruse to work. But Page points out that for the character, it is a profound act of rebellion.
How so?
He hates his title. The title Duke of Hastings is his father's legacy. It's the source of all his pain. By asking her to use his given name, Simon, he is actively separating himself from that persona. He is trying to be just a man, not a title.
It's his way of trying to escape the legacy that he's also vowing to destroy.
Exactly. And Page made a very specific performance choice in these early episodes to play Simon as almost completely emotionally unavailable. He uses silence and these long, intense stares so effectively. He isn't giving anything away, which forces Daphne, and by extension the audience, to lean in and try to figure him out.
He's a puzzle.
He's a puzzle. And then you have the showrunner, Chris Van Dusen. He has spoken a lot about the alternate history aspect of the show's world building.
Yeah.
His philosophy to not be colorblind, but color conscious.
What's the difference?
Colorblind casting would just be putting actors of color into roles without acknowledging their race. Color-conscious world building, which is what they did, creates a reason within the story's universe for a multiracial aristocracy.
And that's based on the historical theory that the real Queen Charlotte had African ancestry.
Exactly. The show takes that theory and runs with it, asking a powerful what if? What if this was not a secret but was acknowledged? What if she used her position and power to elevate people of color into the highest echelons of society?
So this episode reinforces that world building. We see these powerful, respected black characters in positions of nobility. Simon as a duke, Lady Danbury as a dowager, right alongside the white aristocracy, and it's presented as completely normal within their world.
It creates this rich, inclusive, and visually stunning world that feels distinct from almost any other period drama you've seen. And Adjoa Andoh, who plays the magnificent Lady Danbury, has some great insights on how her character's style reflects that power.
I love Lady Danbury.
She points out that Lady Danbury often wears top hats and carries a sharp cane.
Accessories that are traditionally masculine.
Right. It's a visual code. It signals that she is an independent power player. She doesn't answer to a husband. She's a wealthy widow who runs her own life and actively influences the lives of everyone around her. She is arguably the most powerful person in any room she enters, often even more so than the men.
She's a kingmaker. Or a queenmaker, I guess.
She really is. Okay, so we've talked about the professionals. Let's get to the fans. Because the internet had opinions about this episode.
Oh, did they ever?
Yeah.
The reaction was immediate and huge. That In My Blood cover became a massive viral moment. People were posting clips on social media, freaking out, just realizing what they were listening to.
It completely validated the show's whole modern lens approach. It proved that you can mix contemporary pop culture with a historical setting, and if you do it right, people will absolutely eat it up.
And the interpretations of that song choice were so good. Fans immediately clocked that the lyrics signaled that despite the courtship being fake, the feelings were real, they were visceral, they were,
In their blood.
exactly. Then there was the great debate about Anthony.
The Anthony Wars of 2020.
Is he a villain? Is he a hero? Is he just an idiot? People were so deeply frustrated with him driving away all the suitors, they called it the Bridgerton effect, him just standing in the way, blocking the goal.
But then, as the episode sinks in, the fans who were really paying attention to the flashbacks had this collective light bulb moment. They realize, wait a minute, Anthony's actually the only one acting logically.
In a weird way, yeah.
Think about it. If you knew your best friend had sworn a blood oath to never ever marry or have kids, would you let him date your younger sister, whose sole purpose in life is to find a husband and have a family?
Absolutely not. It creates this fantastic tension for the viewer where we are annoyed by him on Daphne's behalf, but we also kind of have to respect that he's doing the right protective thing, even if he's going about it in a clumsy way.
And then, of course, the online reaction to the glove moment.
The glove.
The internet went wild for the glove buttoning. I saw so many posts and articles citing it as being more intimate and hotter than actual explicit love scenes in other shows.
It is. It's the power of yearning.
It is the power of restraint. Regency romance as a genre is all about what you don't do, what you can't do. So a lingering touch on a wrist, a shared glance across a ballroom, it becomes electric because everything else is so buttoned up and covered.
And so many fans also point to this episode as the moment the real heat starts. They talk about the famous "I burn for you" line that comes much later in the season, but they say the fire was well and truly lit right here in that boxing ring and on that promenade.
I would absolutely agree with that. The chemistry is undeniable from this point on.
So we have unpacked the plot, the production, the performances, the fan reaction. But what does it all mean? When the credits roll, what are the big thematic questions this episode leaves us grappling with?
I think the biggest one, the one that really encompasses both Simon and Anthony, is nature versus nurture, or maybe more accurately, legacy versus identity.
Can you ever truly escape your parents?
That is the fundamental question Simon is grappling with. He thinks he is escaping his father. He thinks he's winning by vowing to end the family line. But the deep tragedy and the irony is that by letting that vow dictate his entire life, he is still letting his father control him completely.
He's denying himself a family, denying himself the possibility of happiness, all to spite a dead man. His father is still pulling the strings from the grave.
Exactly. He isn't free. He is just trapped in a different kind of prison, one of his own making. And flowing from that is the other major theme, the performance of self.
Ooh, say more about that. I like that.
Well, the episode constantly asks, who are we really? Are we the person we present to society, or are we the person we are in the dark, alone with our fears? Daphne has to perform the role of a desirable debutante to actually become desirable. She has to put on this fake courtship to get a real proposal.
And Simon has to perform the role of a suitor, specifically to avoid ever having to be a real one.
Right. They are both wearing masks, they are both playing a part, but the show posits something really interesting, that the ruse, the fake self, might actually be the only path to the real self. By pretending to be in love, they accidentally create the space where real love can actually begin to grow.
They find their truth inside the lie.
Yes, that's it, exactly.
That is deep. It's like fake it till you make it, but for finding your soulmate.
In a way, yes. It challenges our modern idea that fake is always bad or authentic is always good. Sometimes the performance is what allows us to discover who we truly want to be.
Wow. Okay, that is a lot to think about. This episode really does do so much of the heavy lifting for the entire series. It hooks us emotionally, psychologically, and thematically.
It transforms what could have been a shiny, shallow period drama into a legitimate character study about trauma, identity, and the masks we all wear. It is the foundation that the rest of their romance is built on. Without shock and delight, the rest of the season simply doesn't work.
Well, I'm definitely rewatching it tonight with all of this in mind.
I might join you. I really need to catch that grid shadow on Anthony again.
And listen for the Shawn Mendes strings.
Always.
That was today's deep dive.
Same story.
New layers.
This is Pink Blade.